The United Party for National Development was elected into government on the promise to be able to ensure that economic stability is restored. And at the time, obviously, the country was experiencing some economic challenges that were exacerbated by the COVID-19 and other variables. Another key campaign driver that the people of Zambia were able to buy into was the promise to be able to root out the issue of corruption, which at the time, obviously, the reports that was coming in from the CPI, which is the Corruption Perception Index, and other related documents was indicating that corruption in this country was unfortunately at an all-time high. And another interesting fundamental that the UPND did promise to be able to rectify once given the opportunity to be in the driver's seat was to improve the quality of governance in this country. Those key promises among the many were the ones that made Zambians be able to give the United Party for National Development a chance to be in the steering wheel and drive this country to the promised land. Today, I'm privileged to be joined by Mr. Joseph Lungu, who is the Special Assistant to the President in charge of policy and compliance. And of course, among many things that we'll discuss on the People's Space podcast, we'll be able to check on whether or not those promises have been fulfilled. If so, where are we? And of course, we will be able to look at other things that the government is doing to be able to address some key policy concerns. As we may be aware, policy obviously is key when it comes to ensuring that things are done in any governance structure. Policy obviously is non-negotiable. The name is Wenson Mavoro, and of course, welcome once again to the People's Space podcast. We are glad that you could join us. And before we get right into our conversation, let me announce from the onset that you do stand a chance to win some amazing and fantastic prizes ranging from mug cups, t-shirts, capes, hoodies, and all kinds of memorabilia and accessories. All you simply have to do is be interactive on the platforms where the People's Space podcast does air. That is YouTube under the handle the Center for Trade Policy and Development, and Facebook and CTPD Zambia on Twitter, TikTok, and other social media platforms. Having said that, let me take the opportunity to welcome you, Mr. Lungu, to the People's Space podcast for the very first time, sir. We're honored and thrilled and excited to have you.
Thank you very much. I feel comfortable to be here today.
I think I'm so glad.
I'm so happy that I'm here.
That. In fact, I'm so glad that you've said that. I think when we had the opportunity to host Mr. Jito Kayumba, obviously we did mention that, one thing that I always give credit to the UPND government for is that you always make time to be able to utilize whatever platforms are available to interface with the people of Zambia, to be able to answer some of the questions that people may be having out there. So for that, I think this is a message that you should even take to the president when you see him, to say people are happy.
Can I just add on to what you have said? The new Dawn government is ready to engage with every stakeholder in this country. Whoever has an interest in the affairs of this country, we are ready to engage, we are ready to listen. That's our approach. It's in our manifesto. We said that we are going to engage the voters, we are going to engage stakeholders, and we are doing exactly that.
I think that is right.
And that continues. And this is actually premised on the belief that we don't know everything. We don't know everything, and we don't have all the information. So it's important you hear what are the other people saying. What are the other stakeholders saying about the affairs of this country? That's the only way that we can get better. Thank you.
I think that is very comforting to hear, Mr. Lungu. And, a lot of people have been rating how you've performed ever since you assumed office, looking at the fact that next year in August, obviously, we'll again be going to the ballot to be able to decide whether or not we give the UPND another 5 years to take on or continue from where they are at the moment. So I think for me, when it comes to rating, I'll take this opportunity to rate you. When it comes to 1 out of 10, when it comes to engagement, being available and being open, I think I'll give you a 9.
Just give us a 10.
No. I haven't had the president sit here. I'll give you a 10 when
when the president is here.
When President Tichlema sits here, then I'll give you a 10.
No, that 9 out of 10, that's good enough. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
so
you.
As we get into our conversation, Mr. Lungu, obviously,
Yes.
we have a tradition here at the People's Space Podcast where we give people an opportunity to get to know who, a lot of people know you as Mr. Joseph Lungu, who is, the special assistant to the president in that high office, who talks to
Yes.
the president every day. They talk
Yes.
about serious things, big things for the country.
Of course.
But who is Mr. Lungu outside your job?
Mr. Lungu is a citizen of this country. Is a husband. Is a father. And basically, that's how I define myself. I'm just a citizen of this country. An ordinary citizen. Yeah, a simple Zambian, born in Mufrila. Yeah, to a miner and a housewife. Yes.
I like the fact that you're using the word simple Zambian.
I'm just a simple Zambian. I'm just like any other citizen. The only difference is that I've got work to do, working with the president. Yeah, I've been given that privilege to work with the president. Yes.
So, as a presidential advisor on policy and compliance, what does your typical day look like? What kinds of decisions or issues do you regularly deal with, on a day-to-day basis?
I tell you what my day often starts with. I go to my office, or even before I prepare for the day before I even get to the office. I go through the diary to see what the president's engagements are, and of those engagements, which one really fall within my space, and I plan for that. I've also got my own diary, my own engagements, and those, of course, have to be married to HE's diary. So I look at both, and HE's diary takes priority. So I look at that diary and I tick out, I'll attend to this one, this one, this one, this one. And then I look at mine. When I'm done with my president's diary, I look at my diary. Then I deal with those matters that are on my diary. I do that. But when I get to the office, the first thing I do, I say a little prayer. I ask God to give me direction, to strengthen me. I ask Him to bless me and protect me and guide me and show me the way to go.
Okay.
I do that every day when immediately I walk into my office. Yeah.
So being a presidential advisor obviously is not as easy. It takes somebody, who has a passion for it. It takes somebody who is willing to sacrifice, a lot of things, their time and everything. What drew you into this job? Is this something that you always felt, you wanted to do?
Leadership.
Or maybe you're just
I
doing
think
it for the money.
No, it's not. For me, I think leadership started at a very young age. When I was at secondary school, at St. Paul's in Kabwe, I was appointed house captain. And from there, I was able to provide leadership. We had dormitories there. There was Luanga House, there was Champagne, there was Clement, there was Rugambwa. But one of those houses, I was a house captain. And for me, leadership started from there. Now, you asked specifically about what drew me into what I'm doing now. I think I saw a situation where there was some gaps. Some gaps where I think a lot of people are afraid to get involved in or to get entangled in, so to speak. Politics in Zambia was left to basically what I would describe as noisemakers, people who had an agenda maybe for themselves. Then I realized we had a problem. And there are some people who were in politics but they didn't have the skill to run the country. And when the UPND was formed, I was one of the founder members of the party. I was working that time full-time in Ndola. I joined the party then. And one of the reasons that caused me to join, or that actually encouraged me to join, was one, this party stood for what I believe Zambia needed. And Zambia needed a leadership that was not self-centered, but that was focused on development. And at that time, Mazoka, may his soul rest in peace, was identified as one who could move this country to the next level. And looking at his credentials, I was encouraged that this is the right guy to move Zambia to the next level. So I was part of that team. And I realized we needed to do something different, because Zambia, from time of independence, had been going around circles, just going around circles. It's like what happened to the Jews when they crossed the Red Sea, when they crossed the Red Sea. They were in the wilderness for 40 years until that generation perished in the desert. They were just going around. Yet the promised land was not very far. And the Zambians were going around in circles. I realized I should be part of making a change, making a contribution. That's how I got interested and I got involved.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. And obviously, the intention is noble. One of the interesting things that I saw recently is a report that was released, which obviously indicated that the UPND government has achieved, above average,
Certainly above average. When you look at what we have done, it's certainly above average. Okay. People argue. Some people have said you've done zero. Is that a fact? Is it fact that we've done zero?
So that report makes it very clear.
And for me, for the media, you should ask those people who are saying this government has done zero. Just ask one. Just pick one item. We said we should have free education, and there's free education. Does that really amount to zero? Even if there were 100 things to do, we've done even maybe just one item. Is that zero? Is that factual? So anyway, you can proceed with your question.
Yeah. So I know that you are very much anxious to be able to just set the record straight, yes. Especially when it comes to this.
Yes.
Others have bodaciously said, you have done 90%, more than 90% of what you promised you've achieved. Like you said, others have argued. But when you say you've done well for yourselves, obviously one would then begin to ask to say, okay, what are some of the key areas where you feel you've done well?
Thank you very much. Let me just take, there was a, I don't want to say a joke. There's somebody who said, you are saying you've done 90%. For me, I think you've done 100%. And I'll tell you why. All my 5 children are now going to school for free. I'm not paying school fees. For me, that's 100%. So don't talk about 90. Say 100%.
Interesting.
Anyway, we've some of the very serious key areas where we say I think we've really done very well. We've done in the area of free education. Since we implemented the free education policy, over 2 million of our pupils are now in school. Can you imagine what would happen? What would have happened without free education? Those 2 million of our citizens would have been in the compounds, in the villages. That's an investment in their future and the future of this country. That's one area. The other area that we've done very well, CDF. CDF is having very serious impact on the lives of people, especially in the rural areas. When you go into the areas, you find some roads are being graded, you have new health posts, you have schools, you have desks, you also have skills training, which actually is impacting on the people's lives. We're empowering people at the local level. For us, that's one of the areas that we want to talk about. That's the areas what I would say we are achieving things. I know it's not perfect. It's not perfect. We need to button up a few gaps here and there, but those gaps are not major. So we're working on that. So CDF is one of them. Free education is one of them. The other one, which I'll say, is debt restructuring. when we took over, Zambia had just defaulted in 2020. And when you default, what does that indicate? A country defaults to service its debts. What is that indication? It's the economy basically collapsed. It was growing at minus 2.8%, and we are not able to service our debts. Now, we've reached debt restructuring, and that the impact of that you'll be seeing it very soon. You'll be seeing it. You'll be feeling it, because now there's confidence in the economy. People can trust the investors out there, the donors out there can trust the economic team that is running the economy in this country.
You mentioned CDF, obviously, which is very, very important.
Yes, CDF. Maybe there are others that I can also mention. The mining sector. The mining sector had literally collapsed. KCM was closed. Mopani was closed. The other mines, like First Quantum, were about to pull out. Now, because we came in with policies and engagements, these mines have been reopened. We have reopened Mopani. We have reopened KCM. We have reopened Kitumba mine. We have opened the Kalengwa mine. There's more investment coming in. First Quantum is bringing in billions of dollars investment, giving the mine extended lifespan. Supposed to have closed sometime this year. But now that mine now has an extended life of 20 years because of what this government has done. And that is creating jobs for the people, empowering the people, addressing the issue of poverty and economic growth.
So you talked about CDF.
Yes.
Recently, I saw a report that was indicating, rightly as you mentioned, that CDF is doing very well in rural areas.
Yes.
But key provinces such as Lusaka and Copperbelt, unfortunately, were not doing very well. And the other concern that was raised is that in some parts, you discover that, again, resources that could be used for other things within those specific locations is still going back to administrative functions for CDF. So why do we have that?
When you look at the administrative, when you look at the CDF for the way it's structured, there's a component for administration. There's a component. I think it's 5%. For
example, in my constituency, I haven't seen anything about CDF.
No, it depends on what you're looking at. But which constituency is that?
Matero.
I haven't
seen anything there.
Yeah, but
so
you need.
Is there CDF for Matero?
There is, of course, there is. This year there's 36.1 million for Matero. But you need to engage your MP. You need to engage what we call the ward development committees to see which projects they are running in those areas. You may exactly not see, like, for example, like in Matero, you may not see exactly what's happening, but there are things that are happening on the ground. I believe they are. I haven't been to Matero myself to check whether CDF is really working, but I've been to places where I've seen CDF work. I've seen new health posts. I've seen roads being graded. You have seen the yellow machines. Yeah, yellow machines that are now available. I think every constituency has bought yellow machines for them to grade the feeder roads in rural areas. So in certain areas, it's very visible. In certain areas, it may not be that visible. Yeah.
Interestingly, you spoke about the mining sector as well. An area obviously where you've made some reasonable progress, and
not just reasonable. Don't call it reasonable. Very good progress. If a mine is closed, seriously, the mine is closed 2-3 years down the line, the mine is closed, and then President Hakainde comes, and the mine is reopened. What is that? That's not just reasonable. That's a fantastic development.
So President Hakainde,
and some mines have been closed, even imagine, for 46 years. Like Kalengwa mine, for 46 years, the mine was closed. Kaunda didn't open it. KK, may so rest in peace. Other presidents that followed never opened that mine. They did not open that mine. President Hakainde Hichilema comes and opens the mine. That's a serious plus.
So on KCM, obviously the president at one point, I remember in an interview, he had said, well, we are not going to give the mine back to Vedanta.
I'm glad you brought that. Vedanta is a mine.
What changed?
No, the Vedanta is a mine that was embroiled in a serious legal arguments. Serious legal arguments. We did not agree with placing KCM on receiver.
Is it that we didn't have any other option? We didn't have any way to take it? That we had to give it back to Chairman Agawa and the group?
No. I'll tell you what. There are legal issues that are involved. For example, if you have a legal right to an asset, you can't just come and say, you get out. Life is not like that. This government was elected on the premises that we shall follow the law. Are you with me? And the law did not allow us just to walk in and ask these people to leave. The law doesn't operate like that. So government and KCM and Vedanta were in court. In South Africa, I think even in London. So we had to find what was the best option. If we had continued having legal arguments, KCM would have been in limbo maybe for the next 20 years. Just like in cases of certain mines, for instance, Mopani and government were in court for over 11 years. And the court were in London, not in Zambia. So this president says, we don't mine in court. Let's mine across the boardroom. Let's go and mine where the minerals are. That's what brings value. If you go to court, you are only going to make our people in the legal profession rich. And you're having a case, the issues are here, but you go to a court in London. Can you imagine the expense involved? Why London? So this president says, no, let's not mine in court. Let's have an engagement across the board. We agree, and the nation benefits. And what has happened today? KCM has come in, Vedanta has come in, and the mine is operational, and people on the core belt are benefiting. Of course, maybe at not the level that they would have wished, but from where they were, where there was nothing happening, something is happening. Contractors have been paid. The miners that were owed money have been paid. There's investment that is going into corporate social responsibility. That's a benefit.
So another important issue when it comes to the mining sector has always been, and this I think I would call perennial, because regimes have come and gone.
Yes.
Civil society such as the Center for Trade Policy and Development and others have remained consistently saying, we are glad that these investments are coming in the mining sector.
Yes.
However, what we want is to also see, as the mining sector investment is growing, FDI is growing in that particular sector.
Yes.
We also would like to see the ownership through ZCCMIH as a strategic, entity also begins to grow and increase in that respect. Can you confidently say the UPND is also achieving?
Let's look at Mopani, for instance. Mopani, we now own 49% of that. 49% of Mopani is now owned by ZCCMIH. The citizens of this country own ZCCMIH. But before that, how much shares did we have in Mopani? Some people say we owned Mopani. But basically, Mopani was not owned by us, basically, when you look at who was controlling Mopani. But now we own 49% of that. And in our manifesto, we said we want to encourage local ownership. And we are doing exactly that. We're encouraging Zambians, including you, if you want to own a mine, identify an area and apply for a license. We'll give it to you. We have given out licenses to Zambians to own mines, deliberately so, artisanal licenses. Some have been given exploration licenses. But what we want to encourage Zambians is when you get a license, don't sell it to other investors and then you go and buy a BMW. No, you are the owner of the asset. When you get a license, get in joint ventures with people who have capital, who have the skill. That's what we're encouraging Zambians. And when you negotiate for shareholding, what you are bringing to the table, you are the owner of the resource. You are the owner of the resource. You may not have the skill, you may not have the capital, but you own the resource. You go into joint venture with those who own the resource. Those who those who have the capital, who have the skill. So you are not bringing nothing to the table. You are bringing something. So we encourage Zambians to get involved. Identify areas, apply for a license, you'll be given a license. Encourage, find the people that you can work with in a joint venture.
So before we get on a break, is there any other mine that you can say outside of the 49, the 40, is it 49?
49%, yeah.
Outside the 49% that we
Yes.
own through ZCMH. Is
Yes.
there any other mine that you would say we have a similar stake in?
No, for now, no, we don't have that.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't.
So
have
there's
that.
only one mine.
Yeah.
So meaning the new Don.
But
can
we are
do
working
better.
on that.
So meaning
But
the
we
new Don
are
can
from
do
zero.
better.
We won't deny. No, but okay. Okay, through the SMIH, there are others that we own, but not to the same extent.
Okay.
Yeah, we have
So
some shares.
in less than a minute,
Yes.
I'll draw you back to the issue of CDF. I feel you did not answer my question when I asked about Lusaka. No, I know you answered a lot, but remember, Lusaka and Copperbelt are still not doing very well when it comes to uptake of CDF, making sure that the funds serve the purpose that you're supposed to serve. One then would deduce, and these speculations, these statements and assertions are thrown out there, and the people of Zambia sometimes tend to believe these things. Some are saying, well, it's just a political strategy that the New Dawn government is using to make sure that CDF is zeroed out in rural areas where they'll get more votes, and they are neglecting the, when the true picture. Others are saying there's no money, in fact, Mr. Lungu.
No, I'll tell you what. Money is there. Money is released at the same time throughout the country. At the same time.
So why are people failing to use it?
It's released at the same time. It's released at the same time. Those are issues that we need to look at. Why Lusaka? Why some constituencies are lagging behind? For instance, you go to, let's say my constituency in Nyimba. How much uptake has happened in Nyimba? We look at the projects that have taken place. We come into Lusaka. Let's look at Lusaka Central, where I belong. What projects are being financed? I've seen a few street lights, okay, near my home, somewhere there. Okay, I don't take a tour to find out what other things are happening. But I can tell you, money is available. It's released at the same time, at once, throughout the country. And that is also in line with what we call we want a Zambia that is equitable. You are treated equally, irrespective of where you are, irrespective of who you are. As long as you are a Zambian, you'll be treated the same. So every constituency will be treated the same. Unlike what used to happen in the past, there was a 1.6 million that was budgeted for as CDF per constituency, but the release of that 1.6 was very biased. That's a fact. Some constituencies never even got the 1.6. But now, every constituency gets it at the same time, and it's available. So, when you talk about basically seeing what's going on, why Lusaka and Copperbelt, when you talk about Lusaka specifically, I would maybe refer to maybe urban Lusaka, urban Copperbelt. Possibly that's where we have challenges. But the rural parts of these provinces, it's visible that there's CDF. You can see the impact of CDF on the lives of the people.
Interesting. You are watching the People's Space podcast with me, Wenson Mavora, and my guest is Mr. Joseph Lungu, Special Assistant to the President, Advisor on Policy and Compliance. And of course, we are discussing an array of issues, but particularly we are looking at how the United Party for National Development has performed so far ever since assuming office in 2021. We will take a break. We'll be back shortly. But remember, you can be and we can get interactive on our platforms under the handle, the Center for Trade Policy and Development on YouTube and Facebook, and CTPD Zambia on TikTok, Twitter, and other platforms. And let us know what you think about some of these, topics that we discuss on this particular platform. And most importantly, remember, we have these conversations for you. It's not a discussion between the two of us, but we want you to get involved. So let us know what you think. And by doing so, you do stand a chance to win amazing prizes such as mug cups, t-shirts, capes, hoodies, and many other amazing and fantastic prizes that you do not want to miss on. So let's get interactive and win big. We'll see you shortly. Welcome back to People Space Podcast, and we are today looking at the performance of the United Party for National Development ever since assuming office in 2021. What are some of the positives? What are some of the gains? Which areas can this government do better? To be able to provide those answers, joining me is Mr. Joseph Lungu, who is Special Assistant to the President in charge of policy and compliance. And of course, we've been delving into so many other areas before we got on a break. And as we start our conversation quickly, there's one thing I forgot to ask. I know you told us a little bit about yourself, but others maybe would love to know, like in your spare time, what are your hobbies? Are you a Manchester fan? Are you an Arsenal fan? Do you watch football? Or what other things do you do?
What other things do I do?
Yes.
When I'm not advising the president, when I'm not in
And
the
thinking
office.
about policy issues.
One of the things that I do, I read a lot. If you have to be an advisor to the president, you have to read a lot. You have to read a lot. You have to read books. You have to follow what's going on around you, not just locally, even abroad. Because some of the things that are happening outside the borders of this country, they affect us in one way or another. Because remember, we are part of a global community. So I read a lot. I follow news. I watch football. My favorite team locally, Mufulira Wanderers. Mighty Mufulira Wanderers. Mighty Winner Chungula was
Still in
born
Division
there.
1, is it?
No, they're in Premier.
They're in Premier League now.
Yes,
Okay.
they're back in
Wonderful.
Premier.
Okay.
Yeah, they've been in Premier, I think, the last 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, as a Zesco fan, I don't know so much. What I only know is that we are winning anyway. So yeah.
Yeah. So I was I watch football. Mufulira Wanderers is my favorite team locally. Outside Zambia, I am a Liverpool fan.
Okay.
Yes, you never walk alone.
As the job
Yeah,
befits.
and as a family man, I spend a bit when I'm free. I spend time with my family. Yes.
Okay. So now, obviously, continuing from where we were building on, looking at what the United Party for National Development has done. So interestingly, you feel you've done 90%. Others feel 100%.
We've done 0. Oh, that's 100%.
Others feel you've
yeah.
done 100%.
Yeah.
Of course, the whole assessment, one would say, is relative.
Agreed. Agreed. It's debatable.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's a health debate.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
So
a healthy
Transparency
debate.
International Zambia feels that the UPND government has not performed or is not rating the UPND government's performance as high. Neither is it saying it's low, but it feels the UPND government is moderate. It's just there. It's just there. And some of the areas where TIZ feels the UPND government can be able to do better and improve on, to be able to, show people that, look, we said we're going to do this and we are doing it resolutely.
Yeah.
Is the issue of the fight against
corruption. Okay.
Yeah. So the political will
Is there.
Okay. No one can argue.
Yes.
And this, I always also commend President Hakainde Hichilema for. He's not shy whenever he's in public to say he doesn't like corruption. He's not shy to mention it. And we've seen certain moves being made which show that, yes, he doesn't like corruption. But there's an area where now, and this is where my question is.
Yes.
TIZ feels that you haven't done very well when it comes to, despite the political will, you haven't done very well when it comes to harmonizing the legislations to ensure that the fight against corruption is, strengthened and what you set out to achieve can be achieved.
One of the things that they normally point out, if I follow the argument, is that they talk about, for instance, asset declaration. People are saving in high public offices.
Yes.
There's no law that really requires, for example, a person like me to go and declare my assets. But it's something that is under consideration. It's something that we need to look at, because that, of course, helps in terms of checking us. Mr. Lungu had the 2.3 million. After 1.5 years, I'm worth 23 million kwacha. That raises questions.
Through
So,
that, we're able
yeah,
to
that
know.
raises questions.
And through that, we're able to know.
Yes.
Asset declaration.
Exactly. And without evidence of a source of income, where it came from, but suddenly from 2.5, you are 23 million worthy. No, that raises questions. On that account, I agree. Are you with me? Things like that. But it's something that this president is committed to fighting.
Is he?
He is committed, yes. And I'll tell you, if you look at what his actions, what has happened in the last 3 years, he's ready to fight, he's ready and he's fighting past corruption, present, even future corruption. He has demonstrated his resolve to remove people that he has appointed. He has appointed PSS. He has removed them on the suspected wrongdoing. He has removed some of them. And some of these are going to go before the courts of law. So it's a process that's going on. Fighting corruption is not an event, my brother. You can't. It's not like switching off power, switching off and on. It's a process, and this process has to follow the law.
But Mr.
You
Lungu,
can't just.
it's been
You
5
can't.
years now.
No. It's 3 and 3.
Yes,
we are going
yes,
to 4 years.
Exactly. We are getting into 4 years
I've
now.
just
We are
told
hearing
you.
the commitment. We've
Yes.
been hearing the commitment.
Yes.
We've been hearing the assurances. When are we ever going to hear Mr. Lungu declaring his assets so that we can know whether when he came in he was at 2,000 and now he's at,
Now is at
2
20
million?
million.
Yeah. When are we going to see that? When are we going to know the actual? I know in 2021, I think President Hakainde Hichilema had, prior to the elections,
Yes.
he did declare, but that information wasn't.
No, that information is available at, I think it's a requirement as a presidential candidate, you declare your assets.
Yes.
Yeah. You
But
declare your
it wasn't
assets,
made
your
public.
liabilities as well.
Yes.
Yeah, he did that. Every presidential candidate is required to do does that. Yes.
Does that.
Yeah.
But we've never gotten. So why isn't he
that's a
taking the lead?
requirement.
Why isn't he
That's a
taking the lead
requirement.
to say, okay, look, I know that I made a promise, I made a commitment. I, as President Hakainde Hichilema, when I came in, I was at $300 million. Now I'm at $600 million because my farm there, I sold the 100,000 cattle. This is where I am. Don't you think that would really encourage us and say, this
Next
man
year.
truly?
Next year, when he files in his papers, he's going to declare.
But it will just be with ECZ. We will not know.
No, that thing is no. It's announced. It's announced the public. Remember the first time that he contested the first time that he
Yes,
contested
the first time.
the first time 2006. Yes, the first time when he declared, people just sat up and said, this guy.
But since then,
So he's that big.
In
No,
2021?
2006 he declared. 2011 he did. 2015 he did. 2016 he did. 2021 he did. So if you follow, they normally announce. The ECZ, they normally say that. We've received.
but we've not seen other officials in the key officials. I know there are others who have, but others haven't. I know you say
The vice
there's
president
no law.
has done that.
I
The
know
vice
you say
president
there's
has
no
done
law.
that. The speaker has done that. I think the speaker has done that, but there's no law. There's no law. It's just something that people are demanding, but it's something that we need to consider. Actually, yeah, it's something that we need to look at and consider.
When you talk about the Anti-Corruption Act and
Yes.
obviously the Constitution, the argument also has been on the definition of public officers with regards public officers making sure that
Who is
you
the
know-
public officer?
Yes.
Yeah.
And-
Am I a public officer? Am
So-
I a
so,
public
w-
officer? Am
are
I
we-
a politician?
As an expert when it comes
Yeah.
to policy issues and everything,
Yes.
is there progress in that regard?
Yes, there is progress. It's something that is under consideration, but I can't tell you at which stage it is. But it's something that is being looked at.
So
It's-
between
it's
now
good,
and
it's good.
August,
It's good. To,
between now and August, are we
I'm
likely to seeing any change?
I'm not promising that it will happen tomorrow,
Hmm.
but I can tell you it's something that is being looked at. Yes, it's something that we need to consider. It's something that we've been looked at. So it's a fair argument, actually. Yeah, it's a fair argument.
So then you'd agree that when it comes to the fight against corruption,
No, that's not the only
You're
way.
moderate.
No. I'll tell you what. That's the only fight against. Let me tell you, corruption is, should I say, in this country, it's something that has been. How can I say? It has been there from the time that Zambia maybe, if Zambia was born. Are you with me?
Mm-hmm.
It's a process. It's not an event. Are you with me? Now, people talk about corruption. For instance, if they believe that Mr. Lungu is corrupt, yeah, this is what it's just important that they come and tell me, Lungu, you are corrupt. This is what you have done. This is the money that you have stolen. This is how you have stolen it. Put that information in public domain. If I sit and just say, oh, there's corruption, but I'm not saying specifics, then there's a problem.
So some people were excited when a motion on the floor of Parliament was, introduced for the audit lifestyles.
Yeah.
Which was supposed to also target, civil
Lifestyle audit,
servants.
yes, civil
lifestyle
servants
audits.
and yeah.
Yes, and just to be able to enhance this culture of transparency, because ideally people are not supposed to hide. I mean, there's nothing wrong. I mean, personally, as Wenson, if you ask me, okay, I believe Mr. Lungu should be well paid. Okay, for serving as special assistant to the president. No, this is just me. You can argue. You can argue.
No. What do you mean well paid?
No, yes, but listen to my point.
Yes.
Personally, I don't mind if they pay you 1 million kwacha for working in that office, as long as you're doing your job, you're serving this country, you're honest, you're transparent. I don't have a problem with it. Me, I don't have a problem with it. And I'm one person who advocates that people who serve in these offices should be well taken care of.
Can I tell you something? If you want to know my paycheck, it's all in public. Go to cabinet office. There's a cabinet circular that gives details of how much a minister gets paid, how much the president gets paid. That is in public domain.
So to my
point, the biggest problem is that we want information to come through that door and lands on our table. We are not investigative. As a journalist, it's important to investigate. For instance, what is Mr. Lungu's pay? It's very easy to find out. Just go to cabinet office. There's a circular there. Yes.
So what I was driving at is, relating it to what the members of parliament were pushing for.
Yes.
The issue of lifestyle audit. So that in as much as you get paid, whatever you get paid.
I think it's something
when we see.
Yeah, I think something that I alluded to earlier on.
Yes.
Yeah, I said it's something that, for example, we are specifically talking about declaration of assets, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's something that is, as a policy, it's something that is under consideration.
The MPs called for a law, not a policy. So why are you hinging more on a policy?
No, because
why are we not beginning a journey that will lead
the
to
journey,
a law?
law doesn't just come without a policy.
Obviously.
You need to have the policy, and then you enact the law that will support your policy. Otherwise, your policy will just remain
a mere pronouncement.
Exactly. So there's a process.
So
from a policy perspective, it's something that we'll say is under consideration, but we need this policy to go through the stages that it's required. First of all, there must be stakeholder engagement. People must be engaged. The stakeholders must be spoken to, not just me or civil servants, but others, the wider society must be engaged.
Yeah. Okay. That is very fair and interesting.
Yeah.
Still on the issue of corruption, when you talk about one thing again that personally I do appreciate this government for, the introduction of the fast track courts to be able to get rid of the backlog and also deal with the economic crimes and financial, related crimes that we've seen. Something which is, in my view, brilliant, good initiative. But in the absence of, for example, having, for example, a designate building right now, I feel like we're still.
You are referring to court space.
Yes,
it's something that is.
When are we likely to have a designate? Say this is and these are the judges, so that we don't have to start waiting for them.
I know where you are going. I know where you are going. It's something that has been discussed in cabinet. I can disclose to you that cabinet is aware and the president is concerned and he has given directives that issue must be addressed.
Is there a timeline to it?
I would say yes and no. Yes, it's urgent that it has to be addressed. No, we have not put a date, say it should be done by December. Remember, we are dealing with a resource envelope. Resources must be available exactly for us to put up a structure, for instance, infrastructure like a building. It's not just any building. It must fit certain, must provide certain facilities for a court process. Yeah, there must be cells there for inmates. Those who are not, for example, are not on bail. There must be room for judges. There must be enough space, adequate space. So it's something that the president is concerned, and he has given directives that must be addressed.
Let's talk about the issue of the constitutional reforms. Some civil society that we've interviewed, which sat in your chair there, expressed serious concerns, saying they were not properly included in the process, describing some feeling like this is a UPND thing because we've not been really brought on board. There's not been adequate consultation.
Constitutional making processes in this country has gobbled a lot of money. If you look back and see what this country has spent on.
But why now for you guys? Why now?
Let me just make my point. The constitutional making process in this country has gobbled a lot of money. A lot of money. If you look back, every constitutional process has got a lot of money. But has it addressed the issue of the constitutional issues? To some extent, yes, it has. So what we decided as government is to look at the constitution. Which areas can we save money? For instance, by elections. Do we have to debate that?
No.
There's 10 things that we don't need to debate. We just have to agree as a nation and move forward. Do we have to buy election every now and then? When you look at what we've spent on by-election in the last 5 years, for instance, maybe $1 billion kwacha. And that money would have gone to support a child who is supposed to be in school. It would have gone to buy medicine. It would have gone to provide a desk. It would have gone to do a road. But the money has been spent on by-election. As a nation, do we have to debate that? No. Certainly not. So we looked at issues that we believed were non-contentious. And there are only 13 items actually that are being looked at. 13 items. Yeah. And people have different opinions about it. But people are also, basically, I think what you are referring to is the process. The process, the roadmap was given, and consultations have taken place. Of course, you can't consult we are 20 million, eh? Not every one of those 20 million Zambians will be consulted. Some of them have representations. For instance, in your case, you have your MP, Matero MP. Go and see Honorable Mao Sampa over the issue of the constitution. That's also part of the consultation process. Yeah. Consultation is not just having workshops. People are used to workshops, having grandstanding workshops here and there, and people talk. Yeah, that's one of it, but it's not the only one. There are other consultations that have taken place. We have the Electoral Technical Committee report, where most of the NGOs made submissions, and the report is there.
So, again, others feel like why now, when we're about to go into an election next year?
You can amend
it's like, is this a trend?
The life of a government is 5 years. You can do it on day one. You can even do it a day before the elections. It's not specific. You cannot. It doesn't specify as when you can do the amendments.
But don't you
can
think
do it on
then?
No, it's just a question of opinion. You can have your opinion. You may think some people think it should be done on day one. Others think it should be done on 10 days before the elections. Other people think like that.
But you see,
so now what I'm simply saying,
opinion, Mr. Lungu, creates perception.
Exactly. But what I'm simply saying is this: the constitution can be amended anytime in between the last elections and the next election.
Correct.
So legally speaking, that's how it is.
Good.
Yeah.
Understood.
Yes.
But again, someone would have thought like the UPND was going to be different. Yeah, like you people were going to be different when you came in. Obviously,
but
this argument at these things and say
this argument was not there when the constitution was amended when was that? 2016 January, before elections. This argument was not there. 6 months before the elections, the constitution was assented to, was signed. This argument was not there. But why are people arguing? Why is it the argument is coming up now? Is it because it's President Hakainde Ichilema who is sitting in the seat? No, that's a flawed argument, sir.
No, it can't be a flawed argument. We have high expectation
Of course you
of the president. We have high expectation of Mr. Hichlema. And we know
So
that,
you are
his-
measuring him to a
his
different
thing-
standard.
Exactly.
Because
You see,
is of higher standard, isn't it?
and exactly.
Is of higher standard.
According to my opinion,
glad you
yes.
think like that.
According to my opinion, look, me, I'm not shy to state what I think, to me, and this is why I've always argued to say, I know in life, you always have to compare something to something to gauge the progress, to see where you're going and everything. But I've also always argued to say, look, certain things,
That reminds me of
you can't be comparing yourself to a low standard and saying, no. Yours is there.
I did an article a few months ago where I said, I think we are expecting too much from my namesake, the one who was president. We're expecting too much. He's of a particular caliber, of a particular standard. So I think it's important that we treat him as such.
Of which I agree with you. And because we have a certain expectation of President Hakainde Hichilema, we'll treat him as such. When he also waits a year before the election to amend the constitution, we'll also stand up and say, but why did you wait?
I think he's done extremely well. Very well.
Subject to debate.
Yeah, but I think he's done very, very well. If you have to do a comparison, seriously, he's done very well. On all
Before I move on, one of the issues that obviously, I heard the Honorable Minister of Justice talk about, the issue of ensuring that young people are given an opportunity to serve, and it's one of the key areas which is highlighted among the 13.
Yes.
One again says, well, even right now, opportunities are there to give young people a chance to be able to be in leadership. So if we're not seeing satisfactorily, according to some, the opportunity to do that, should we wait until the constitution is amended?
No, the argument that young people must be given opportunities to serve is valid. And we agree with that argument. Are you with me?
So why are you not doing
But how to do it? For example, look at the constitution. What does it provide? Or how can the president maneuver within the constitutional provisions to ensure that the youth are given chances? Are you with me? You have to look at the constitution. Yeah. And what challenges is trying to address? That's very important. When you look at, we have youth MPs in there. Are you aware? Very youthful MPs.
How many?
I can't maybe count them on their fingers. But the fact is that we have some. I can give you one example.
And the fact is that there are very few.
Yeah, there are very few, but they are there. But they are there. Are you with me? Yeah. And we have a situation where we have a constitutional provision that for you to be in there, you must offer yourself for election.
Others would drive the argument and say, the president has got 8
yes,
nominated members of parliament.
Exactly.
Again, that's an opportunity for him to throw in young people, women, the differently able.
I think he's done that.
He is still the appointing authority.
Yeah, he's put women. He's put some
in key positions of government. Yes. Again, another avenue where he could have demonstrated to the satisfaction of many and say, look.
He has done that. Have you looked at the PSS? The issue is not just about addressing youth and women concerns. No, there are other concerns. There are certain areas where the president didn't get any MP. Luapula, for instance. Muchinga. He didn't get an MP from there. And in living with our promise that there shall be representation at the table of cabinet from every province, the president had to make a decision. So when you look at some of these decisions that are being made, they are made to address things like that. We have no MP in Luapula, so what do? You ignore the people in Luapula? No, you get one of their own. Come and sit in cabinet. And that's what this president has done.
Two major issues as we get to close our conversation, Mr. Lungu.
Yes.
One of the things that is enshrined in the manifesto, and one of the things that President Hakainde Hichilema did a very good job campaigning on, adequately demonstrating, explaining, using graphs, mathematics, all kinds of tactics in the books.
Yes.
Was the issue of the cost of living. Okay.
I'm glad you've come to that.
So,
I'll tell you what.
But what we've seen right now, Mr.
The
Lungu,
cost of living is high. That's what you're
yes,
driving at. Let me just
it's
explain.
high. Middle meal is high, sir. Middle meal prices are
When
high.
you say
Cooking oil is
high,
high.
high is relative. I hear you and I understand. I hear you. What is the price of meal right now? What's the price of meal right now? At what price of meal did we and what price was meal when we came into government? 180, 150, 180. You can get meal now at 180, 190. Now you can get meal at 190. ZNS and collection services. You can get meal at 230. You can get meal at 240.
I think I'll look for it.
So please go and look for it. The difference.
I'll be able to.
I'll tell you what. I went into Choppies. I bought meal at 240. 240. Now the difference of 180 and 240 is 60 kwacha. And when you look at that, those prices are obtaining given the background that what we've gone through as a nation. We've gone through COVID. We've gone through cholera. We've gone through drought, the worst drought in living memory. We've gone through debt restructuring. Just listen.
When President
just
Lungu
listen
went
to
through those, President Hichilema said lack of leadership.
No. He never went through. He didn't go through the
COVID.
Drought.
He did. No. There was a drought.
Yeah, no, not to the same extent. Where not the way it is now, the way it was. No. There was no drought.
The effects were still there. 2014, 15 drought.
Exactly.
The effects were still there when he was president.
But still, despite that drought,
the effects of the El Nino were there then.
No, not to the same extent. The drought that we've had is the if you look at the numbers, it's the worst in living memory. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Not the drought. That was partial drought. Which the previous government went through. We went through the worst drought in living memory. Have you seen it?
Don't you think then President Hakainde Hichilema's statement of saying leadership then must rise to the challenge and sort out the problems? Because he said that when he was in opposition.
He has risen to the challenge and has sorted out the problem to some extent. I'll explain to you how he has done it. One, despite the cost of living being high, the cost of meal. So let's just look at meal. Here is a guy who has 5 children, gone to school. Are you with me? His children are enjoying free education. Instead of paying that 1,200 as school fees, he's got that money now available to him to buy meal. It's okay. It's not 100%, but he has gone somewhere to address the challenges. We have done, I can give another example. University students, they are getting meal allowances. This father or this parent who has a child at the university now doesn't have to give a meal allowance to his child or to her child at the university. That money remains in the pocket. It can be used to buy a bag of meal. Mind you, if you look at the figures, the difference in the price of meal, if you go to specifics, one bag for one bag, the difference may be 100 or 60 kwacha. But your savings from paying school fees, from paying meal allowances, is reasonable.
It's reasonable against high inflation.
We found inflation at 24%. Okay, 24%. Now is hovering around 15%. Okay, a difference of about 9%. That's a reduction. Of course, it went down to about 9%. It came up because of COVID, because of cholera, because of the drought. So, but it has stabilized, and we believe that it's on a downward trend.
It's still double digits.
Yes, still double digits, but we believe that by the end of the year, possibly we'll hit 9% at the rate. And you know what drives inflation? The food inflation, the food prices. And with this bumper harvest that we're expecting, we expect the price of meal to reduce.
Load shedding is another issue, obviously, as we,
load shedding is a result of because most of our power is generated through hydro. And when you don't have water, And we don't manufacture water.
The president said some nice
We
things
ma-
about.
listen,
He said
we
some
don't-
nice
we
things
don't-
about this,
I know,
Mr. Lungu.
we
I
don't
remember listening to
manufacture
him very
water.
well on
We don't
radio.
yes,
and I'm
we
like,
don't
you know what? We need to get this guy into office because he's gonna do these things.
And he's doing it.
But we still
He's
don't have
doing
power.
it.
We go days without power, Mr.
Yeah,
Lungu.
because
3-4
of
days.
because we
no
don't
power.
because we are having a situation what we didn't foresee. For instance, the issue of the drought. We didn't foresee that Kariba will be dry, Kafue will be dry, and those are the areas where power is generated. And
So what happened to his dream of we're going to bring
now
solar investments?
we are doing solar.
It's just a question of
if you have
bringing
heard,
solar.
there are a lot of solar projects that are coming up that are construction. By December, the target for this president, the target to have at least a minimum of 1,000 megawatts to come on stream. There's one plant which I think end of June is going to be commissioned. That's 100 megawatts of solar. So we have a plant in Mamba, 300 megawatts, which will come on stream most likely next year, just around July, August. So the issues are being addressed. I'll tell you, the issue is the president providing solution. That's the question that you must be asking. What is it that he is doing to address this challenge? You've seen. He's encouraging all of us to have, those who can, have solar. He's encouraging people to invest in, to be investors. For instance, like you. If you have extra whatever, invest in solar project.
Okay, so obviously,
it tells you
my director is going to kill
listen,
me. My director is going to kill
it's
me.
okay,
Mr.
let him
Lungu.
kill you. It's okay.
but
it's okay. Just this one point.
Okay, when
Just this one point.
I'll allow you to build on it, but just quickly.
Okay.
When can we see the fruits of these efforts that the president is making? Because load shedding is very disturbing, Mr. Lungu. It's very disturbing.
I've just told you. We have other smaller solar plants that are actually under construction. We have Choma, which is 50 megawatts. So when you have all these coming together, maybe by the end of this year, we shall have maybe 1,000 megawatts of solar. So we shall see a reduction, a drastic reduction in terms of load shedding.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as you give permission for my director to kill me, I think today I'll be crucified. I'll be more than killed. I'll be crucified.
But I want to make a very serious closing statement.
One last thing
before
you make your closing statement. One last thing. The hot topic at hand.
Yeah.
The US government decides to make a decision to withdraw the 1.4 billion aid within the health sector. There's been a whole lot of issues there. They cited corruption, and the impression when you read the statement is that
you know what you should do. Let me help you. I told you, I deal with facts. Somebody must give me specific facts.
But they said they gave facts. 33 meetings, they provided the facts, but you were not acting.
No.
Then you go and arrest those people doing the
audit report. The audit report, which I'm not privileged to disclose, contains a few details of what actually happened.
The forensic audit report.
Exactly.
Others have again called for the president to come public and update the nation and say, okay, we are conducting a forensic audit report.
The audit has just been completed. The president says he actually commissioned the audit report. The president did. He called for the forensic audit.
Yes.
And that has happened.
Commendable.
And this was done. The terms of reference were agreed with the donors. We didn't do it as government alone. They were part of the process. Yeah.
But they said that they gave you reports. They told you who was involved in those, and they made it very clear in that statement that they don't want to see a situation where we go and round up people operating pharmacies. Now, I'm not saying people operating pharmacies illegally shouldn't be held accountable, but they say they would like to see the proper people that are perpetrating, that are disrupting the supply chain, perpetuating the corruption when it comes to the supply of medicine.
The audit report.
Why didn't you act on that?
The audit report I believe contains details.
Does it agree with the evidence that the Americans gave?
I haven't looked at the other side, but I'll tell you what, the audit report I think contains with some of those details. But my comment on that is that our Minister of Health, our Minister of Home Affairs, our Minister of Foreign Affairs, they've addressed that issue. If you read that statement, they've addressed your concerns. Are you with me? So I wouldn't want to go into specifics because they've been addressed by the ministries, and government is moving on those reports.
Your closing statement, sir.
This government has done, I believe, I want to insist, and I insist, that this government has done very, very well. I'm interested to know from those who think differently. For instance, when we said we provided free education, I would like them to tell us what is the alternative to free education. I want them to tell us what is the alternative to CDF. I want them to tell us what is the alternative to us paying pensioners who are being soaked at the Minister of Justice during the previous government. And the Minister of Justice was just peeping at them from his window. They were being soaked by rain. What is the alternative? I would like us to also learn from them. What is the alternative to having cadres harassing people in public places? We believe we brought in law and order in public places. What is the alternative to that? What is the alternative to meal allowances for students at public universities? We want to hear what is the alternative. What is the alternative to 20% partial withdrawal NAPSA? If they don't agree, what is the alternative? So there are quite a number of things that I can outline. For instance, maybe last bit. What is the alternative to opening the mines, opening Mopani? That was heavily indebted to the tune of $1.5 billion to Glencore. What is the alternative? So what I would encourage those who disagree is to bring ideas forward. That we'll listen to them. If they have better alternatives, we'll listen to them. Okay, let me not say better alternatives. We'll listen to the alternatives. We'll examine them. It's not fair to say you have done zero. It's not right. Is it true? Is it factual? You people in the media, you should ask them. Is it not fact that there is free education? Ask them. Is it not true that there is meal allowances? Ask them. Let them say so. That's the kind of debate we would like us to get engaged in, because that's the only way we can learn. That's the only way we can get better. When people are able to come forward, present their alternatives to what we are doing. In the absence of alternatives, it's just political grandstanding and noise making. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lungu, for coming through. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. On the People Space podcast, my guest has been Mr. Joseph Lungu, Special Assistant to the President in charge of policy and compliance. And of course, we've been looking at how the United Party for National Development has fared so far, having assumed office in 2021. And one of the key things that I appreciate about this conversation, apart from the openness and the candidness that Mr. Lungu has brought on this particular episode, is the fact that the UPND government is open to dialogue, and you know that dialogue is the hallmark of democracy. You cannot talk about democracy if there is no dialogue. And you've heard it for yourself that the UPND government is open to alternatives that will benefit the Zambians, and not mere politicking and just exchange of views that are void of facts and do not improve the socioeconomic development, particularly for the majority of Zambians. I think for me, that's a major statement, and that's a major win that all of us can consider riding on to take the nation forward. The name is Wenson Mavoro, and thank you for watching. And before I sign out, remember, you can win some amazing prizes ranging from mug cups, t-shirts, and of course shirts, hoodies, and all kinds of apparel, good quality, beautiful, including other memorabilia that you can add to your collection by simply being interactive on our platforms. That is the Center for Trade Policy and Development on YouTube and Facebook, CTPD Zambia on Twitter and TikTok and other platforms. Get to say something on these episodes that we broadcast of the People's Space podcast. And if your comment garners enough traction, or you tag a lot of people and there's so much traffic on there, you might just be that lucky winner that will get a chance to be able to secure one of these fantastic and amazing prizes. The name is Wenson Mavor. See you next time on the People's Space. And remember, let's keep the conversation going.